My topic today is the bug titled Default Tabs for a Numbered List Inappropriate. Two-digit numbers exceed first tab position, which was highlighted by TDF-QA as one of the most important bugs with 7 duplicates and 18 carbon copies. As I reviewed each of the duplicate bug reports, I noticed that any duplicates prior to LibreOffice 6 were basically irrelevant because Yusuf Philip had already changed the built-in numbering styles to use right alignment instead of left alignment. And so a huge thanks goes to Yusuf. What remained for me was to apply his proven settings to some remaining less obvious cases. The correct action for a list is very subjective to different users and different document content. So the prevailing attitude I tried to keep in mind while working on this was safety, changing only things that seemed obviously wrong. So this is what the bug is talking about. How big should the tab indent be? And it said it didn't work for two-digit numbering, but obviously now it is working for 2. It just doesn't work for 3. It's not working with the alphabetical one when you have the word default of font of Times New Roman, which is the same as our Liberation Serif. And so the same as Times New Roman. It gets pushed out to the next tab stop. However, if you just change to the Calibri font, then the tab indent is sufficiently wide. And so you can see it's very dependent on the fonts chosen and the size chosen. Microsoft Word works exactly the same way in this situation, so that's good actually that we're working the same way. The key takeaway here is that when dealing with numbering, there's not really a right or wrong answer, and so it's up to the user and not the computer to decide the correct settings. The computer can only suggest good defaults for the situation, and that's what Yusuf did with the numbering styles. The biggest offender being Roman numeral. Usually the left alignment quickly looks bad, already at 0.7, and Yusuf changed it to be right aligned, which looks really nice in the numbering styles. There's still a few things that are not optimal in the numbering styles. The second and third levels are reversed in the capital Roman numeral. So if we change it to 1, 2, 3 style and then change it back, you can see the levels are all mixed up, and it's fixed now so it looks like the bottom image. For the lowercase built-in style, it's even worse. The second number was not indented at all, and the first one on the third level, it starts with a C and not an A, and the bullet indent is not even far enough, so it's fixed to look like the bottom. We'll discuss it a little more in this slide here. So since this style is a mixed bag, I made an additional change. I changed the second level to be a capital Roman numeral, still sticking with the Roman theme, but because there's bullets and alphabetic ones in there, I thought it didn't make sense to have 2 small ones and then switch to something else. So now it's a bit more of a logical progression, and everything is nicely indented. The bullets are breezily indented much more than the normal bullet levels, matching the first 3 levels. So now it was time to look at some of the locale defined lists. Each language can define their own numbering lists. I mostly worked on the outline numbering. So it was only defined to affect the first 5 levels. I extended it to affect all 10 possible levels. And I also allowed it to do the same thing that Yusuf did, right align the Roman numerals, which I did for English US. I didn't make any changes to the regular numbering because we don't have any context here. It only affects 1 level at a time, and it doesn't affect any indenting, and so it's not really appropriate to define right or left alignment for this one here. The set of options for English US was still not optimal. We have this one here, which only has 2 levels. This one was absolutely random, looks ugly. And so I made a number of changes there. Once again, trying not to change too much. I thought the following changes were justifiable. This one I extended out to 4 levels, and I made them all use a closing parentheses to be consistent. There's lots of examples that just use full stop, so this is going to be our one example that uses parentheses consistently. This third one I changed completely, something illogical to be alternating alphabetic and numeric. So it's fairly modern level, and it's a good chance to have one that started with a capital A instead of yet another one that starts with a number. The last one I changed is this number 5. I couldn't find any rationale for the specific order that was there before, it was very close to matching the MLA Chicago style, which seems to be prevalent around the world. And so I made it match the first 5 levels that are pretty consistent in all the suggestions that are out there for what MLA defines. So because outlines should be in pretty good shape now, I've added the outline button to the toolbar, so it should always be showing. I only changed English US locale, but of course many other locales are also using numbering types 3 and 4, which are Roman numerals. If your locale is not referencing English US, you probably want to make the same changes to add right alignment to your Roman numeral levels. So far, no other locales have done this. These changes have been documented in the 7.6 release notes, and also the locale mailing list has been notified of all these changes. Thanks for listening to this talk.